The bass and the melody.
Just my disclaimer here, I actually think the game feels pretty on most of the time, and I pretty much universally like almost all the charts, and I have no complaints. Excellent, great game, A+.
Agree.
What?
Tonight.
Welcome to the Almost Perfect Cast. I am Drew, aka Wordus.
And I'm Elisa, or Eesa.
And I'm James, or Pilot.
And I'm Zon.
Tonight.
Just want everyone to know this is not official Step Revolution certified, no StepManiaX affiliation. We're just fans, players that we like to talk about our game and our hobby. Let's see, what have we had happen since the last episode? We had a Halloween drop. We'll be talking about those. Any tournament news? I know the Red Note ITG tournament has been announced and the pack is out. I think, Eesa, you've been playing that, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna go get owned.
Yeah.
The next major that is happening, I believe, would be the one in December. Which one is it?
Are you thinking of Eclipse?
Eclipse, yes.
Cool.
I would consider that a StepManiaX major. So I'm not sure who all is going to it.
Yeah,
if you are going to Eclipse, I will see you there.
That is going to be December 8th. And then on the December 15th, we have the B-Hop Ball. It's a SMX and ITG. That is at B-Hop Esports in Illinois. And then coming up next year, we have the Winter Ball 2024. That's going to be at the Lucky Snake Arcade in Atlantic City. So quite a bit of time left to decide on that one. What else? Tournament.
And IAPA is next week. Who knows if there'll be some cool stuff shared there.
Yeah, if
They've
you're
always got something.
If you're in the area, go stop by if you can, and you might be able to get one of the exclusive SMX shirts.
I still haven't gotten one, despite all of my contributions.
They pretty much only go to in-person events, like IAPA and the Gamescom, things like that. All right. Anything else anybody wants to bring up before we head into the song drop? No. All right. Who wants to go first? Not me.
Okay.
Eesa?
I have notes and I'm ready. All right. My number one pick is Boogeyman Full 21.
Hey, me too.
Yes, it was the best one. The whole first half is just a bunch of real fun twists, and I actually did all of them. I think I messed up on one thing on the left side once, but other than that, I did everything. I've been getting better at twists, I think, since I've been practicing for Winter Groove, and I'm gonna try doubles in it. And I never played ITG doubles, but ITG doubles, it's way more twisty since it doesn't have the middle button, right? It's twist, twist, twist. So I'm finally getting good at doing it and forcing myself. But that was just so fun. The end parts was just little runs is still fun, but the beginning twisty part, the best. And it's my favorite musically, best song.
Yeah, it just has tons of really good movement that flows really, really well, and it's just really fairly written for those turns and everything. Yeah, just a really good, solid 21. Lots of stuff.
Yeah, my next favorite is the bass and the melody, full 22. That one's a really good song too, and it has some fun twisties too. Not as many, but just like in the beginning, but they're really good too. It's just like really on beat and fun and chill. Maybe it should be a 21 though, I would say. I don't know.
I don't
It's
know.
not really
There's a
that hard.
couple really hard like transitions in there where it doesn't flow like super well. I think 22 fits well. Like there's some pretty tough turns in a couple spots that are kind of hard to read.
And then my third favorite was Under the Bed, full 20. It was just another really fun chill chart. It's got a couple like jackhammers, but they're not that fast. But that's my jam, and I'm waiting for more. Make edit charts, people. Make those jackhammer songs.
No,
Um,
no jacks,
so
please.
I was happy for some. And the little runs that start on like the yellow notes or 16th notes, like offbeat one. Why those are so hard? Why are they like that? But it's still fun.
All right, I'm gonna go next because I only got to play the wild charts. I'm bad, but I've been very busy. So um, Halloween is like one of my favorite holidays. So a drop that was just all Halloween. I'm in heaven. I was loving it. My favorite musically was Halloween Scream. I like the electro swing. It's just a good genre for me. And the 24th bursts were like, nice. There aren't too many songs with like just a bunch of 24th bursts throughout. So that's one of my favorite like rhythmic patterns. So that was a fun one, and it was like surprisingly fast. Like all the gallops around. It reminds me of like the Dolphin Talk and the other Pyramid song.
Yeah, Cowbell Rock.
Yeah, Cowbell Rock. Yeah.
Yeah, I played Cowbell Rock yesterday. It's a lot harder than I remembered. With those, the gallops are like the where you have to like double step, so you have to do like left, left, right, right.
If you want hard, you have to play the Mariposa edit of Cowbell Rock. That's
Oh,
hard.
boy.
Yeah, I tried that. It's insane. It's like a 26.
Yeah, remember when the wild chart was originally rated 24? They knocked it down.
Yeah.
I think it was like, wasn't it after Dolphin Talk came out? And Dolphin Talk was originally rated at 22, and they're like, these songs are basically the same.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk early in the game's lifetime about the pyramid. Some of those ratings were a little different.
Yeah. But anyway, so I like those 24th gallops and stuff, and so I really liked Halloween Scream. But Under the Bed, like Eesa, like you said, it's just been kind of stuck in my head for the past like few days or whatever. And Boogeyman, also classic. Just like it's just a good standard song. The charts, I didn't really remember too much interesting stuff from the wild charts. The bass and the melody is kind of very similar to the other Searle charts, like 2 Year Beat, where it's mostly just like 20 or 8th note streams with occasional 16th bursts. But they were all pretty solid charts, so my favorite just has to be Halloween Scream.
Yeah, I think the Wild is the best chart for Halloween Scream.
It's definitely one of the most interesting charts in the update, the Halloween Scream Wild chart. And one particular thing I think is very interesting about that song is its Hard Plus chart, which I know has been a subject of some discussion regarding the nature of the chart. I think it's an interesting addition to the difficulty range it's in. It's not I don't think it's difficult in stamina or anything of that sort regarding executing it, but I think it's very interesting how technical it is. It's a slow song, it's 120 BPM, but there's some very interesting patterns thrown in there, not just the obvious handful of measures with the difficult to time swing pattern that they put in there, but I'm also really interested in how they executed the lifts in that chart. One thing that I had found, and I discussed this with some other players who focus on accuracy for the lower level charts, is some of them, if you foot switch on the actual lift itself, so on the freeze arrow leading into that lift, or the hold note if you want to call it that, and you let go, if you position yourself such that the foot you're lifting off the panel at the end of that lift is then the next note you're hitting, it flows better, and you have to foot switch to achieve that flow. When I finally understood that tech, especially when I had gotten into some people who were streaming on their streams, and I went, hey, you've already got a perfect score on this. Can you help me out here? And I learned that. I then got back on the pad the following day and worked on it for a while. And when I successfully got the flow going and I got finally the good 6-star run I was looking for on it, it was really satisfying. So it's really cool to see some more techier things in that range. It's a good addition to the game. Otherwise, just some other quick opinions on the current drop. I do think the bass and the melody is my favorite song musically. I do love a good themed update, but sorry to everyone who loves Halloween. I like the bass and the melody a lot more, personally. And I gotta say, as I was working on some perfect scores for it, both the song and the charts for Boogeyman really grew on me the more I played them. So I think there's some surprising sleeper hits in this update. Very good.
Yeah, I think we pretty much talked about everything that I wanted to mention. I did want to mention a little bit about the duel. The bass and the melody duel plus was really, really fun. There's like some optional, like either foot switches or you can do them as like cross arounds. I mean, you can either do a crossover or cross
or double
behind.
step. Don't forget that option.
Yeah, that's the option. That's the optional part. And then Halloween Scream, the Dual Plus, was also really fun. And then Boogeyman, actually the Dual Plus as well. It was 18. It's rated, but I think it fits a little better as a 16 or 17. It just kind of has you staying in the center for the most part. But it's a really, really fun chart. So if you have 2 stages or access to play on 2 stages, definitely check out the dual, or specifically, I guess, the Dual Plus charts for this drop. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. We talked about my favorite ones already.
And then edit drops. I don't know if any of you guys played edits, but I played some
have
today.
a couple, yeah, for sure.
There's been like a bunch of good stuff dropped. My favorite by far is the Telperion Energizer full 25 rated. I agree with 25. But it is absolutely incredible. If you want to use up some energy or just push yourself to get better, this is a chart. It is just like nonstop foot switches forever. Some of them are just like 8th notes, so they're not that bad, but there's some 16th note ones too. And you're just back and forth and back and forth. Move yourself so much. But yeah, Energizer, Telperion 25, play it. My next favorite one was the new Mandodo one, India's Glitch.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about 25. That. It's so good.
It's so fun. I love like the changing rhythms. There's some gallops. There's like purple stream, 16 streams, foot switches, of course.
There's some fake
There's a lot of
too.
Skittles. There's a lot of like Skittles, or like the purple rhythms have like different rhythms in them. It's just so good. I love the new Mandodo India's Glitch.
There's like some fake foot switches too, where they look like foot switches, but there's no like mines. And if you do them as foot switches, you will be on the wrong foot So I had
I
to
think
learn
the
that.
only one really was just like the first run.
Yeah, like in the beginning, there's like one or
But
maybe
yeah, I messed
two.
up that first one. I kept trying to foot switches since I got so used to the other foot switches.
And it leads you right into like a 30-second burst. So if you're on the wrong foot, good luck double stepping a 30-second. It's not happening.
The only edit chart I played this cycle was there was a ladybug edit that was like 90% foot switches on the same panel. It was just like bump bump bump.
Was it center?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I don't know. I think some of them were like ups and downs, but like it's just all foot switches. It's like a run that is just foot switches. And that one was fun. I think it's good practice for foot switches, and I might use it as the like a warm up song next time I go in tournament, because that way you can test the sensitivity of the panels to make sure they're to your liking.
There's one more edit that I wanted to mention. It was for High on Your Love. And it was either by Adri or Demicore. I can't remember for sure off the top of my head, but when I post this, I'll put the link in. But it just has a lot of like 30-second note patterns, which sounds crazy, but it's only like 100 BPM, so it's not that bad. But it just has some really interesting 30-second note patterns and a couple brackets and foot switch parts. And yeah, just really good. I like those kind of charts where it's really slow BPM, but it has lots of really like difficult rhythms and different like notes, different note colors. I like those really technical ones that aren't super hard from like a stamina viewpoint. All right, and we'll put the links to those. I'll put those in the show notes, in the description on like the YouTube once we put it up, so everyone can play those. So I guess moving along then, we're talking about commentary this round. We are at least 3 of us on this episode right now have done lots of commentary. I've done it for, let's see, all of the Red Octobers basically, and I did part of it with Zom for the SGDQ run with Zephyr and Ches and Bobby. And that's pretty much it. I don't think I've done any other ones, just the Red Octobers basically.
I did commentary for every major that has occurred this year, which was Red Note, Byte, and CEO. I also did it at the AGDQ run with Word. And then I've also done some locals, commentating some locals as well.
And in comparison to the resumes that you two have provided, I'm quite honored to be here on the podcast today, as Red October 2023, just last month, was my first time getting on the microphone to commentate a tournament.
Well, this is good. We're going to have the whole range of opinions. And Eesa, you haven't done any commentary, right?
No, I have not.
So we can get the pure viewer opinion as well.
Yeah, we wanted to bring Pilot on, basically because you kind of just stepped in to help out when Zom had his COVID, basically,
Yeah.
and then you turned out to be like
rough.
just a really, really good commentary.
Well, number one, thank you very much for the compliment. I know I've had some people reach out to me to say that they thought I did a really good job commentating for the event, so I'm very happy to hear that. And I was also really happy to see here and there, not just people in the immediate orbit or the scene or friends of mine who had happened to be watching at the time, but I had also seen at least a couple of one-off comments from people on Twitter, other social media feeds, where they had noted like, wow, Red October was really good, commentary was good, all of that. And I was quite happy to hear that people liked it, because quite frankly, when I first put on the headset, it was that Friday night after the mile tournament had concluded. I really did not have any idea what I was doing. I figured it out as I went along, and it seems my intuition on how to do it was correct. But from the offset, it was just, oh yeah, we're kind of doing the funny little side event. You know, everyone's up and playing, and there is some open space, and I'm just like, sure, I can talk about team mode. I play a lot of team. I have a good friend here in my area that we play team mode a lot with. And so I'm just like, yeah, I can talk about specific things like specific teams charts because I have that knowledge. And it sounded like the production team in the back who were controlling the stream, like the commentary. And that word got passed up to Zephyr, who invited me back for the other days.
Yeah, I think that's one of the important things about commentating is that, in my opinion, I think there's like three major components to commentary. There's like current like matchup experience, like knowledge of like what is happening on the screen. Can you convey that to the users or the listeners? Can you like show people, point out like, oh, you know, they got a miss there or they missed a lift, that's tough tech. And like, you know, so understanding like when people might want to like back up and look for something if they're watching like a YouTube replay or something like that. You know, just like what's currently happening on screen is one. Second is like knowledge of the game, like not just the chart that's being played, but other similar charts, tech, like how to execute tech, difficulties that you might find while you're trying to do that, and like, you know, just like knowledge of the players who are currently playing. You know, one player like Paranoia Boy is really good at like doing crossovers and all that back and forth stuff, more so than most other players. So maybe, you know, if he's playing a particular chart like that, like the beginning or something, you know that he should have an advantage on that chart. So providing that information to the listeners who may not be aware of the like the broader context is important. And I think the third pillar is hype. Can you get people excited about what's going on? You know, it doesn't have to be like, ooh, they executed that really well. You know, props to them. It would be like, whoa, did you see them do that? Yo, there was only 5 points difference. Oh my god.
Yeah, I think it's good to be able to tell like in the moment when something like special happens, even if it might not have like a big effect on the outcome of the match. But things that happen like as they're playing, they could be really hyped just to call out little things here and there as well.
Yeah, one of my favorite commentators was Andy at the Salad Bowl. I don't know if anyone else watched him, but he was just so excited for every little thing. And like he's like, another great, oh my god. It's like anyone could take this, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, making sure to build up like kind of like the narrative of, you know, like, oh, this person is ahead, but there's this tricky section that's coming up, so it still could go either way. You don't know. You know, helping the users see that it's not just like, you know, one side won, the other side lost. That's it. I think some of the people that I've talked to who don't participate in tournaments have told me they don't do so because like it's so obvious that, you know, the better player is going to win. Especially in like dance games, you can have like huge skill gaps between like higher and lower level players. And like if somebody can pass, I don't know, a 13 in ITG stamina, and the other player can't pass it, they can only pass 12s. And if you're playing a stamina-based song, then the person who can pass, you know, do streams for longer is probably just going to win. But especially, you know, throughout the bracket, you can have like close matches, even in like the loser's side or the winner's side, like just based on song selection. You know, there can be particular tech in a song that one player may be able to execute better than the other player, or specific like accuracy sections. Can you hold on to your absolute perfect combo, for 100 eighth notes in a row? Do you start to like waver back and forth? If there's a slowdown, does that hinder one player more than the other? So like being able to sell the watcher that like we don't know how this is going to go. Even if you think this player is a higher seed than that player, they are more skilled in general. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to win. So conveying that information to the user, I think, is one of the things that makes commentary useful.
Yeah, anything can happen anytime. But I always love commentators when I'm a watcher, since if you're at home watching, it's good to like you feel more hype if other people are watching and saying stuff about it, or you're not looking at the screen 100% of the time. It helps you follow along better.
That's very true.
Yeah, for me, like when I'm doing the commentary, the thing that I'm trying to think of is trying to like pull from the depths of my knowledge about the game. Like what's coming up in the song is kind of one of my most important things that I like to talk about. Just so like Zom was saying, like making the story of the match, it's not just like this person's better, their score's higher, but being able to know what's coming up in the song. And when you know each of the players like different abilities and things that they do better than the other player, you can kind of foresee what might change later on in each of the songs.
Yeah,
I think a lot about I was going to say, one thing that came to mind a lot is this was a concept I had heard in discussions around commentary for other games I had watched. I'm certain many people who are tuning in and watching these tournaments or playing these games in competitive settings have experience watching or playing other competitive games, and especially the ones that have really large broadcast scenes. One of the biggest examples I can think of, I used to be a big fan of it a long time ago, League of Legends. Especially
I
since
think of that too with commentators,
that-
the shoutcaster.
I feel like League of Legends is really a forerunner for like the modern esports production. I know Riot really invested very heavily in production and the viewer experience in the mid 2010s, I believe, was roughly when that really started to pick up steam. And I remember discussing commentary for League of Legends in particular. There was always these terms thrown around for play-by-play casting and color casting. So describing exactly what's happening on the screen to inform the player versus giving context, background, storyline, the kind of thing that Zom talked about. And I think dance games are interesting. There's certainly a lot of narrative, a lot of performance-related context you can give when watching players. But there's also definitely good play-by-play and, discussing, that player's made a mistake, that player has missed a specific pattern, or they've nailed this particular section. And then also just talking about the particulars of a chart. One of the things I like to do, I thought was a good idea when I was on commentary, was especially between matches to talk about what was included in the chart. So to particularly highlight a pattern or a specific technique that's present or prevalent throughout a given chart. And then just point it towards, while you're playing, you could say, okay, and here comes this run we talked about.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I think one of the interesting things about the three people that we have here that do commentary or have done commentary is we're all like high ranking in overall, right? I'm rank 11. Both of you guys are in top 10, right? Do you know your current rank?
Yeah,
I can find
overall
out.
it's I think 5 right now for me.
Yeah, I think Pilot, you're like 7.
It looks like
7
I'm
or
9th.
9th.
So just a reminder, the overall includes every difficulty from beginner through full plus.
Right. So we may not necessarily be like high ranked in wild. Like compared to other players, we may not have like as much like technical expertise in terms of like executing the patterns themselves, but we have encountered them at the very least, and we've like done our ranges through the songs. We've played at least every wild chart, probably every full, every dual, every hard chart, and probably the lower charts too. So we've experienced the like all these different patterns and all this different tech, especially even stuff that doesn't exist very much in like your standard wild charts. Like especially you guys who play full more than me, which is all of you, but that like there's stuff you do in full that just never happens in wild, like the kinds of twists and like turns and stretching. So having just experienced that, like being able to feel the whole game, like all 10 panels expressed to their maximum potential, I think helps like broaden your experience when you're like talking about whatever is going on screen.
Yeah, so something that was a little bit different with the SGDQ run that we did the commentary for is we kind of had to start at a basis of assuming everyone watching had no idea what was going on. So we basically had the runners start out with some of the little bit easier songs that kind of showed a few of the different techniques, and we had to kind of explain as they came up. And then kind of as we got further and further into the run, we were able to use more of the like technical language and things that we'd already explained. And hopefully the people watching were able to understand kind of what we're talking about, so that way we could kind of talk more naturally. But then a difference would be like for Red October, we were kind of mostly doing commentary to people that play the game or are at least familiar with the game. But we're still kind of trying to explain things that might be a little higher on the technical scale, but having that assumption that people watching are at least somewhat familiar with what's going on.
Yeah, that was a difference between even like different tournaments between Red October and Bite. Like Red October was just StepManiaX, right? Nobody at Red October like was coming there because they were a fan of DDR, and this just like happened to be in the area. Right? If you were at Red October, you play StepManiaX. Whereas Bite, a lot of the people who entered the tournament, they were there because of DDR or Pump It Up. And they were like, this new game, or this game is getting more popular, StepManiaX. It's basically the same game as the game that I play. So I'll just enter the tournament, see how I do. The same can be said for people who view the StepManiaX tournament there. Like if you're viewing, just Bite streams in general, or like clicking on the links from like Bite's overall page, you might be like, hey, StepManiaX, nothing's happening in DDR. I'm usually interested in DDR. Nothing's going on with that right now. I'll scroll down and check out StepManiaX, see how they're doing. And so people coming from other dance games may be familiar with certain tech, like like foot switches or crossovers or stuff, but they might not be familiar with SMX specific tech. So I think we tried to make it more of a point in that tournament to talk about like how the center button makes patterns different than other games.
And then
we obviously didn't need to do that as much at Red October.
Just smaller things like talking about like things like an APC, where we have to explain that's kind of like the same thing as an MFC and DDR or whatever in the other games. But trying to kind of say like we might not think about it because we're so used to it, but just trying to make sure that we're being as inclusive as possible without dumbing it down too much. And then I think we're even talking about like some of the kangaroos from the patterns. That's something that's like hardly anyone knows what the heck we're talking about, but it's something that's been getting a little more common. I know Cathodin on our last episode actually was talking about it unprompted. He used the word.
If we're gaining traction, we're building momentum, kangaroos will take over.
That's right.
But I think at Red October, some people ended up commentating for like the whole day, pretty much. So
Guilty
that
as
can
charged.
be. So you know what? We're doing this podcast so that more people can feel like, oh, maybe I could commentate.
That's right.
Yeah, so
I mean-
one of the things that Eesa brought up is, we have to rotate around, give people breaks so that way, because your brain, like when I'm sitting there doing commentary for more than about an hour at a time, my brain just starts to like get into slow motion, and like I have no understanding of what's happening in the arcade around me. I'm just like zoned in, but it's not like necessarily in a good way. So I think we did a really good job on the second day, especially about kind of rotating people, getting fresh perspective and fresh voices helps a lot.
Yeah, that's the other thing is that sometimes people are like, "Oh, I love commentary. I want to be, on comms all the time, like me." But I acknowledge that at some point, somebody doesn't want to hear my voice anymore. They're like, "I'm done with this guy. He's been talking all day. Get this guy out. Get somebody else in." And it also helps like diversify the types of commentary that you have because everybody commentates just a little bit different. So no matter what type of commentary you have, somebody's not going to like it, right? That's just how the world works. People like different things. I've heard. I'm really into like Melee. I watch a lot of Melee, and all of those tournaments have commentary. And I'm always looking down in the comments to see how people viewed the commentary, what they thought about it. That's sort of like specifically what I'm looking for. And I've heard like the exact opposite feedback about like the exact same lines of commentary. Like people, like sometimes the commentators will just go off and they'll be talking about, what they ate, some story about like lunch that they had, and it was a crazy experience. And it has nothing to do with the game. And some people are like, "Oh, these commentators are the best. We got to bring these guys back." And other people are like, "These are the worst commentators I've ever heard. Get these guys out of here. I never want to hear them again." So
Yeah,
just
I've
rotating
noticed
people could be helpful.
I've noticed when Zephyr gets on comms, it's just a lot of tangents and a lot of just talking about the players in general and not necessarily having anything to do with the match that's happening.
Yeah, but some people like that. So
yeah, some people like that. There has to be a balance. That's why, as you said, having different people do the commentary, having it more than one person on at the same time, having the dynamic where you can have that dialogue instead of just one person talking about whatever they think is important.
yeah, I would definitely suggest like the more knowledgeable players about a particular mode or a particular set, whether it's like the people who are currently playing or the songs that are being played, or just like whoever has the most technical depth of knowledge should probably be the ones commentating like the most important matches, like the winners finals, losers finals, grand finals of anything. That it should probably be the people who are going to notice the most stuff technically and be able to commentate, like point that stuff out quickly. But I would say if you're looking to get into commentary, then find a local. If there are local tournaments around you, commentate at those. Or if there isn't, sometimes opportunities like this will arise at Red Note, where like at the earlier parts of the day, we just needed more people to be on comms. Pilot was around, and it worked out.
I also
Did you want
think
to mention? Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, since we were talking about different commentary styles and the like, I do think there's another element of dimensionality with commentary, which is having a double commentator or triple commentator cast, a dual or a tricast, and your chemistry with the other commentators. So, personally speaking, from Red October, I felt Zom and I actually made a decent pairing on commentary. I can be very technical, very detail oriented. I have a lot of minutia memorized. I'll point to my discussion on Halloween Scream Hard plus 17 earlier in this call as an example of that. So I can talk to specifics and things to look out for. So I'm very knowledgeable about the game because I've played it a lot and I've been very passionate about it. So I can talk about it a lot, but having only been there for my first tournament and sort of just now recently really getting into the community, let's say, I don't necessarily have the context or the storylines fully understood on my end. But someone like Zom, who's far more knowledgeable and also far more hype, in a sense, I think we have very contrasting styles, but it works together. And I especially felt when the two of us were on the commentary desk, when we would pass the baton to one another for who was speaking at the time, we actually got, I think, a really good flow going. And I certainly felt that I was able to pair up with and make adjustments to suit the other commentators who I had sat with. So another fun thing, I think, leading into the discussion about if you want to get into commentary, just go ahead and try it in places. Don't be afraid to commentate with other people or try and work out a different synergy with your fellow commentators. You can make it work. And when you're both really into it and finding good ways to trade off, it makes for some really good commentary and very enjoyable.
Yeah.
I guess I should try commenting sometime. I've definitely got that chart knowledge.
Yeah. You should
I
give
play
it a
this
shot.
game too much.
I think having a good dynamic of like different sounding voices also helps. So like having like me and Pilot together, we have similar-ish voices, fairly low, not super like animated. But having like someone like me or Pilot with someone like Eesa or Zom, like Zom's voice sounds a little similar, but he's more animated. But then having like a woman's voice with a man also, or whatever, that can kind of help with the listener or viewer experience as well. Just kind of make it so things aren't too samey for the whole time. But yeah, I also do want to talk about a little bit about things not to talk about when you're doing commentary. We're tried at Red October to make this pretty inclusive thing to be a part of. So some of the things we didn't want people using really profanity, just the basic kind of PG sort of language is kind of what we were kind of focused on. And that was kind of our goal. Another thing that I had to really try my best, because I like to complain about stuff in the game, with other people that are in the community. I have to remember when I'm commentary, I'm not really talking necessarily to all of my fellow players. So I try to kind of really tone it down on bringing up anything negative about the game, and only if it's really relevant to the very specific match that I'm watching. So that's definitely something that I have to kind of think about when I'm doing my commentary.
Yeah. You can talk about like difficulties that you have or like personal frustrations, but you don't want to talk about like, the quality of something, because then that can like get people heated about like anything that's like an opinion, which might be like a hot take. You're going to be careful with that. Of course, it can like engender some discussion, which is it's good to have like things to talk about, but you don't want to get like people upset, and especially you don't want to talk about like the developers of StepManiaX are pretty active in our community. Actually, they're pretty often in chat during tournaments, during the streams. Lightning and J-Beam were actually at Byte. They were like sitting behind us. So you don't want to be like, oh man, I hate this J-Beam chart. For example, I love J-Beam charts, but if he could be in there sitting in chat, like listening to you say that, and be like, well, that's not cool, And other people may have like completely different opinions, and then that might color their opinion of you as a commentator, because you had like this hot take about whatever chart or tech or thing that happened on stream. So you do want to be like careful about that.
From personal experience, I know I may have said it outright at one point on my commentary, but I remembered Galactical, as an example, was a song that came up, and I know it's not an uncommon opinion that Galactical has a later feel to it, sync-wise, and I believe I may have made mention of that, and I think I may have worked on rephrasing how I said it to something to the effect of, it's a song that can be very easy to rush. So I know one of the things I was working on is, certainly you may have a feeling, or you may feel that there is some aspect of the game that impacts the actual match itself. I certainly think perceived synchronization on a chart is one of those such things, but I wouldn't necessarily make it a point to say, oh, wow, this chart syncs so late, it's so off, it's going to be so hard for the players, but more just noting, yes, there's a consideration to be made here that impacts the match. And I think you can also extend that to personal opinion and put it more constructively or more informatively. If you feel a certain pattern is awkward or possibly challenging or prone to mistake execution, you can say that without it necessarily being a slight to the developer's effort. And just my disclaimer here, I actually think the game feels pretty on most of the time, and I pretty much universally like almost all the charts, and I have no complaints. Excellent, great game, A+. But
Agree.
I definitely know that there's widespread opinion in some things that are more noticeable, but pertinent, if you will. And so it's good to express that kind of thing constructively or informatively.
I think I'm going to make your little quote there, maybe the little teaser intro. But no, I wanted to bring up something that Jelly Slosh said in the chat. So when we were doing the commentary, I think it was Pilot and Jelly Slosh and maybe myself, but we were watching one of the full matches, and Jelly Slosh said, yeah, there's this part, like, if your scroll speed is too high, you might miss an up-down jump that you have to, like, go across to the other side to hit. And then one of the players did exactly that thing and got a late on it.
Yeah. Sometimes it can be, specifically related to the player, either, and that could be a group of players, like many people may not be good at Scoobies, for example. So if all those players came together and they all said, oh, I can't do black magic because there's these crossover streams and these Scooby streams, and I just don't like it. They can all have this opinion together, and then it may make them think this is a bad chart. And even if like everybody around you agrees, there can be people who have completely different opinions, or those players could be better at that particular tech or like that tech more. Like I think Lazy, I can't remember their Discord name right now, but one of the frequent Discord users was talking about how they like black magic like more than most other 23s.
Oh yeah, they were talking about that today, I think, or yesterday.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but it was like most people probably don't share that opinion, but when you're talking about it, especially on stream, you have to phrase it as like, your opinion, and you need to be careful with those kinds of things. It was something that happened to me actually. It was way back, probably in like 2019 or something, when I was like first learning the game, and I was really struggling with Soapy Bubble. Soapy Bubble is a classic older chart. It has some crazy tech. Demo wrote it. Demo is a fantastic chartist who plays ITG, does incredible things in that ITG space. And most SMX charts weren't as technically complex as your standard ITG chart is today. So I think when he wrote that, he thought that there would be more charts in that style. So when it was rated at 23, to me, that's a crazy misrating. It's not even close, just based on the amount of the tech that is contained in the chart.
I mean, probably the hardest 23.
I did. I just want to.
I talked about that on stream, right? I was on Twitch, I was live, and I was frustrated by all the tech, and I was like, this chart sucks. I hate this chart. And Demo messaged me after that stream was over. He was like, I was in your stream watching you talk about my chart. And I was like, oh no. And it's because I was, not good at the tech. So I should have framed it more as like my opinion and like my personal experience with that type of tech.
On your own personal stream, you can say a lot more divisive sort of things than you really should ever do on like a community stream, like a commentary thing. I also just want to mention real quick, I did ask Omid if he would be interested in making any edit charts, and he said that he might take a look at it. So
yeah,
if you're ever on his stream, just make a mention that say, hey, I heard you might want to make SMX edits. Don't badger him, because that's just a really good way to make someone just not ever want to do it. Just maybe mention it once and just say, hey, if you release them, I'd love to play them.
But that chart is great. You just got to get good.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So we maybe talked about a little bit of some of the technical side. Don't have to talk too much about it. I think for commentary, the best thing is to have each person talking is just to have the headset with the built-in boom, like little boom mic in front of their face. At the first Red October, and then at the AGD or the SGDQ run, we kind of did where we shared like one mic in between us, and it just did not work as well as we really were hoping for. We did have a little technical difficulties for the GDQ run, and that's kind of why that had to turn into that. But having someone that understands how to mix audio, it's not necessarily like a requirement, but I think if you can have each person have their own mic right against their face, you can turn the gain down far enough to where you're not hearing the rest of the arcade and the other person through each other's microphones. I think that's kind of really a good baseline to kind of go for. All right. Are we done? We might be done. Any more commentary?
I can't think of anything else.
The only thing I'll add on to it, just speaking from my first time commentator experience, is I'm actually very glad it worked out for Red October. I think the one thing I've expressed to some other friends of mine who had asked me about the experience was, if I had not gotten onto the commentator desk and done commentary, I don't think I would have enjoyed the actual other 2 days where I wasn't competing as much necessarily. To quote something I had said to a friend, it's like, were I not on the commentator desk, I probably would not have been as engaged actually watching the matches or following along, and I would have just gone into the back of the arcade where there was that Extreme Pro cabinet, and I would have just kept trying to clear Oni courses all day or something of that sort, because all the cabinets are taken for the tournament. But I was really thankful for the opportunity to commentate, especially the other days after After the wild day when we did full for the doubles tournament, I was happy to be brought back on for that as well. So I would say that the experience was really great, and I certainly think if there's anyone out there who's interested in doing this, it's certainly worth a shot. You just need to, I say, read the room for a tone. I know we talked a bit about delivery, friendliness for events. Some events may be a little more permissive on the microphone, but I think just as long as you can kind of read the environment and figure out what's the appropriate delivery for the event you're commentating on, as long as you're just talking about the game politely and reasonably, it worked out just fine. It worked out for me, and I know I've heard other people express a desire to see me back on the microphone at these events, so it's fascinating to have a new avenue in the community presented to me, especially at the first event I had attended.
Yeah, if I wasn't doing as much,
events.
if I wasn't doing as much commentary as I did, I probably just would have played like Sound Voltex or 2DX a lot more. Like pretty much any time I wasn't doing commentary or watching a match, that's kind of what I was doing, because I don't really have access to that stuff where I live.
And granted, at the same time, getting up and talking, on a broadcast may not necessarily be everyone's cup of tea, and I think that's completely fair, but I just think it's worth throwing out a word of encouragement for anyone who's interested or willing to do it. It's worth a shot.
Yeah, I would have done it more if I hadn't gotten COVID.
So Eesa, you're gonna do commentary for the Winter Groove?
Maybe
The winter, what is it called? The Winter Groove,
I'm
right?
playing in Winter Groove, but I can for the later round since I'm definitely getting destroyed.
There's like some of the best ITG players in the world are
Yeah.
gonna be there for sure.
Well, that's why I gotta go. I'm ready to meet some good players and be inspired.
Yep, and then commentate later.
I mean, I had never done like any kind of broadcasting stuff before this, and it's just like, just get on, just say what you want, have fun.
Oh yeah, so you just brought up a good point. Like, I hadn't really done much for like this kind of speaking sort of thing before Zephyr invited me to be part of the podcast. And after the first few episodes, getting some feedback from some of my family, mostly my dad, one thing that he talked to me over and over is try not to say like or try not to fill those spaces of silence with like or whatever. And it's something that you can kind of practice, and you just have to be mindful about it. So when I was doing commentary for all the different events and stuff, one thing that I was really trying to just focus on is try not to make those little noises and things, because silence is okay, because whenever you're not talking, the game's still being played, the music's coming through from the match, hopefully. And just the match itself can be exciting on its own. So I think Steve had mentioned that earlier in our episode here on the chat. Just don't be afraid of silence. It's okay if you're not sure what to say. It's probably better just stop talking until something comes to your mind that's relevant.
My personal 2 cents on this was, if you're watching a match just casually as a spectator, let's say, and it's really intense, it's very close, and you know how in extremely intense matches, sometimes you're just standing there watching it unfold in complete silence. You don't want to say anything. You don't want to preempt an occurrence, invoke commentator's curse, they call it. Sometimes just being quiet and letting the match speak for itself, I think, is being able to acknowledge when that's the correct play and ceding ground to the game itself is a very important thing to note.
Yep. I gotta work on that thing. I do say a lot, but usually it's because I just I'm trying to think of a thing, and my brain can't find the word that I'm trying to say. So sometimes, like preparing what you're going to say as like the correct thing to do. Like if while somebody else is talking, if you have a point that you want to bring up, like think about all the space that envelops that point, and like be able to quickly, jump from the primary thing you were talking about to, secondary points, things that other people can branch off of, and add more flavor to based on their experience. Just like making sure you have like an open-ended conversation topic so that other people can add their flavors into it.
I think that's about it. Where can we find everyone? What kind of shoutouts do you want to do for yourself? Pilot? You stream on Twitch? Kinda.
Technically. I've not really done much in the way of broadcast. I have occasionally done SMX streams, but I do not have the ideal setup for it. So if you're interested in following along with what I'm doing, if you'd like to read more opinions of mine on the game or see some more score posts for low-level difficulties, as everyone tells me I should be working on my wild level score and such, if you're just interested in keeping in touch, I would defer to my X, or Twitter if you'd prefer to call it that, account, @PilotVG. The VG is short for video game. That is the best place for updates.
You're also pretty active in the Discord, on the SMX Discord as well.
I will be very happy to type a paragraph about a particular chart when the moment strikes me so.
And Zom, you've been on here before, but what would you like to shout out?
I've got my Twitch, Zom and Renifer, my YouTube, Zom and Catgar. I think most of my content will be on Zom and Catgar. That's where I do like a lot of my videos, like SMX specific videos about lore and highlights and stuff. So make sure to subscribe to that. I also have a Patreon. I am working on making it more of like a brand kind of thing. I'm also active on Discord. I think it's just Zom on Discord. It's Zom and some numbers. And then I think that's it. I do have a Twitter. I use it sometimes, Zom and Catgar. And that's it.
And then Eesa started streaming. Well, she has been for a while now.
I stream a lot. Come watch me, Easers. Either StepManiaX or working on my Winter Groove.
Yep. I've noticed you streaming like multiple times per week, like almost daily. Not quite, but...
I'm the most playingest player. Yes.
Yep. Like, are you up to 3 billion steps yet? Do you know? Or points?
What? Oh,
I guess
like 3 billion steps. That
yeah,
don't think that's possible.
I think the total points thing is finally just gone. That doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, that's not on. Or wait.
It used to be. Yeah, it's gone.
Wait, what's the thing?
It's just rank points now.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm getting close to 12 million steps, so...
There you go. Probably
there.
The highest ever. And then you can find me on Discord. Just word us. And I also have YouTube that I've been putting a lot... Well, not a lot, but I've been putting more things recently. I've started to do a couple of shorts here and there. I just started a TikTok yesterday with a couple of my shorts. Otherwise, just Twitch for live stuff. I think that's going to do it. Who wants to do the outro? Keep on stepping, maniacs.